When the only constant in life is change, you need to be ready. This is the Man-Made Survival Show.
Hello everyone, my name is Jose Pro, Man-Made Survival. Thanks so much for coming back to the channel and watching this video. I'm very glad that you come back each and every day to watch the videos that I put out, because all this information is really important. And the things have progressed, all throughout this year and in the past few weeks, and even comes down to the hours of things getting worse and worse. All right, and I hate to be, kind of like doom and gloom for some people, but reality doesn't really care what we think about doom and gloom. Things that are happening are a matter of fact. It's not, whether or not we want to acknowledge that it's there or not. And one of the things that I'm going to be talking about today is, global war. And now it seems that it could be anywhere in the world, and it doesn't matter who gets involved. More than likely, the United States is going to get dragged into it, and by the U.S. getting dragged into it, NATO will be dragged into it. So if you're in one of the countries that NATO is involved in, then more than likely your country will be involved in some type of conflict. All right, so that's what you have to think about now. And if you have not prepared, I highly encourage you to do it, right? Because time is of the essence, and time is running out. We don't know how much longer we got, but it could be weeks, it could be months, it could be years, it could be hours. We don't know. But you must be ready for when something happens. All right, before I go any further, I want to remind you about my book. It's Preppers Secrete Cache. You can go to www.preppersecretcache.com, or you can just click the link below. Remember, the book is free. All we need your help with was shipping. All right. And I want to read to you something from the book. All right. On chapter 2 that I wrote about, that anything can happen. Okay. Being unprepared is the biggest downfall of most people when it comes to surviving the end of the world. If you think nothing major is ever going to happen, you may be thinking differently when it is too late. Don't say that someday you will get ready for the unknown. Make it a priority to be ready for anything. There can be a very short window of time between what you are doing right now and when a disaster occurs. You aren't going to have time to be able to reach out for supplies or to make a plan of action. You don't want to end up in a panic because you aren't sure what to do, or because you know you lack the skills or supplies. Have the mindset that anything can happen, and know that you will be ready to face it head on. Take actions that allow you to feel safe, secure, and ready for the future, no matter what it may bring. All right, so that's just a little piece of what's in this book, Preppers Secrete Cache. All right, and I talk about a bunch of other things, world war, other scenarios that pretty much are going on right at this very moment. 2020, if anything, has proven preppers right, because it's one disaster after another, one thing after another. World War III at the beginning of January, then the pandemic, then food shortages, now possibly World War III, but not just the United States, China, and Russia, as I've mentioned in the past, but a whole bunch of other countries that have their own different conflicts, but the United States is an ally of those countries. All right. So we'll see where things will take us, and that's what we're going to be discussing today. But all right, so remember, www.preppersecretcache.com, or just click the link below. And also, I want to remind you about the store that we have recently opened. We're still working on some things, so if you see some things being moved or changed, that's the reason why. And you can get one of the bug out bags that you see behind me in the store. The store is manmadesurvivalstore.com. So, pretty much the title of the show, plus store.com. And you can go on there. That's what is going to help us keep this going, bring you this information each and every day. And also, I want to help people by giving them stuff, homeless people, give them the things they're going to need for war, for just, weather or everyday living. I want to take the orphanages, and I want to teach those kids about survival. Because if something was to happen, what's going to happen to them? Is the people in charge of the not nursing home, but the orphanage, are they gonna just leave them behind because they have to take care of their family, or they're gonna find themselves in the position of, what do I do with so many kids, you know? So I want to get involved in that, and you making purchases through the store is gonna enable me to be able to do that. All right, so anyways, let's get into what I want to talk about today. So a lot of people have been very busy with what's going on with Black Lives Matter, with the riots, with the police brutality, with whether or not, you know, the police should do this or that, policy change, you know, buildings burning down, etc. All right. And now they're talking about a second wave of coronavirus, and a lot of people are starting to freak out, and some other people are saying, forget it, I'm not going through this again. But really, it's down to where the government is going to do, because if they implement the lockdown once again and you open up your shop, all they're going to do is revoke your license and put you in prison. All right. So that's why I say, when it boils down to what really matters, it doesn't really matter what we think, but what they think and what they make us do. But anyways, the first headline that I have for you is this: World War when? China, India, North Korea, South Korea, Israel, and Turkey all move toward conflict. This from Surhedge. As if we didn't have enough already going on in 2020, now we are facing the possibility that several regions' war may erupt. China and India have both been pouring troops into a disputed border region, and now there has been an incident where they were actually killing each other. On the Korean Peninsula, North Korea just blew up a joint liaison office that it had used for talks with the South Korean government. And in the Middle East, Turkey is warning of grave consequences if Israel goes ahead with a plan to annex portions of Judea and Samaria. If a major regional war erupts at even one of these flashpoints, it will be another devastating blow for a global economy that is already imploding, and there is very strong probability that the U.S. and other major Western powers could be drawn into the conflict. Right now, most Americans are focused on our internal problems, and so they are paying very little attention to the growing crisis on the border between China and India. All right, so the right off the bat, the reason why China and India is a very big deal is because they both have nukes. Okay, the fighting between the two countries, really down to the soldiers, it got pretty intense, because they were stabbing each other, hitting each other in the head with clubs, and pretty much fist fighting. Really, a few soldiers actually were shooting, and that's kind of where it stopped. And then, of course, you know, the news break out that happened, and now China is saying that they have 43 casualties, India had 20, and the possibility of war is still there. You know, it's huge. Both sides are moving equipment. India said, go ahead and get out the warships, get out the jets, you know, go ahead and start moving resources around, because this can flare up and be very, very big. China's doing the same thing. They're sending jets and soldiers and ammunition and everything you can think of to the border with India. And if it gets out of hand, then they could probably both blow each other up with nukes. It's a possibility that could happen. You know, it's not off the table, because they pretty much have hated each other for a long time, especially in that disputed border region, saying, you know, this is my part and you're crossing it, and India's saying the same thing. So, you know, we'll see. Now, the deal with Jordan and Israel is very simple. Israel wants to annex Judea, Samaria, and Jordan is saying that's going to eat into our territory, and we're just not going to let you do that. And that could pretty much set off a war, which the United States is allied really with both, but they will side with Israel. And, you know, they will get dragged into it. We will get dragged into it. We will get dragged into India as well, because we are allies with India. All right, now North Korea and South Korea. South Korea is an ally of the United States. Okay, so what is the United States going to do? Who are we going to choose to help? Because if we have South Korea over here fighting North Korea, are we going to go over there and help? Possibly. We're allies. India is over here fighting with China. Are we going to help them? Possibly, because we're gonna start moving our infrastructure, or not infrastructure, but dependency in parts and medicines and stuff like that, into India, as opposed to living in China, because what we've seen with coronavirus, and we would help them as well. And then we see ourselves with Israel. Israel is a very big ally. It will probably take priority in all those three scenarios, and we'll help them against Jordan. But we're going to be sliced very thin, okay? And NATO, it is in NATO that if a member is attacked, then the whole NATO has to come in. All right, so if the United States is in the conflict and they get attacked, then that would make NATO come in and help the United States. Now, that would kind of, how would they slice the pie? I have no idea. But that's the possibility of things happening. So nukes, and by the way, all these places, or most of them, are nuclear armed. So a nuke could just go anywhere. And right now it's up in the air. Who would get nuked? God only knows. All right? That's why you must get prepared for something like that. Because if something suddenly, flashes over a city, and you don't have your supplies, you don't have a plan, you cannot communicate with your loved ones, and you're miles and miles apart, then you're going to have chaos and pandemonium in your own brain, all right? And not only yours, but everyone else around you, whether you're in the United States, whether you're in Canada, whether you're in Jordan or Israel or South Korea or China or India, it doesn't really matter at this point. All right, so my next headline goes on to say this. Senate panel approves funds for live nuclear testing if necessary. This also from Sirhedge. On Monday, multiple reports confirmed that under an amendment by Hawkins Republican Senator Tom Cotton of Arkansas, $10 million is to be set aside in preparations for live nuclear testing. Critics cite global proliferation concerns, also as multiple weapons treaties with Russia have lately collapsed after U.S. pullout, such as the INF, Open Skies, and now even New START is said to be in danger, as well as the potential door opening to a new dangerous nuclear arms race with China and Russia. Proponents are open to new tests, however, based on the belief that U.S. rapid tests could provide much needed leverage. All right, so I had report on this a few videos back, that Trump was saying that we want to test again, above the ground, where everybody can see our power, or our might, as far as the nuclear bombs is concerned. Now, at first, people were saying, he's just crazy, and that's not going to happen. But now things have moved to where the Senate kind of, they're probably presenting them with the possibility of Russia and China having already advanced nuclear weapon systems, which they do, and we must catch up to them. Now, testing, again, like I stated in the previous video, is that now, since we're going to test, they're going to want to test, and then they have to test, and then everyone has to test. And the last very big bomb that was tested, the last one, very, very last one from us, was the Bravo. For the Russians was the Tsar, which, they have. And we can only go as high as we have ever tested. All right, so if we have the opportunity to test again, then those bombs are just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. All right, and a few videos back, I showed, how big on the map, I showed how big those blasts could be. All right, so that's why you must get ready for anything that happens, because we don't know what's going to happen. Okay, so the United States has a problem that possibly our allies are going to stab us in the back. And if that happens, then what are we going to do? Because like I stated a minute ago, if we're going to be divided between Israel then North Korea and India, where are we going to go? Because we can't be in every war, all right? We already have problems in Syria. We're already in Afghanistan and all these other places, all right? We're going to be spread way too thin. And there's no way we can be all, everywhere all at once. All right? So my next headline kind of shows the problem that we're kind of facing right now. Not on my island. More allies reject hosting U.S. missiles in Pacific aimed at China. This from Zero Hedge. Washington pulled out of the Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty, which is the INF, and is promptly attempting to station missiles in the Pacific, urging regional as well as all World War II allies to allow placement there. But so far it appears that they aren't having it. Quote, the governor of Japan territory where the Pentagon is thinking about basing missiles capable of threatening China has a message for the United States. Not in my island, end quote, LA Times writes. Considering American missiles would automatically make them a target. Some critics are saying that that ditching the INF had nothing to do with alleged Russian violations, as was the rationale cited by the administration, but instead, as Russian-based American geopolitical analyst Mark Slodova explains, quote, the U.S. didn't unilaterally pull out of the INF because of any alleged Russian violations. It did so to encircle China with a cordon of island-based ballistic missiles to close a missile gap for a naval conflict off China's coast. The missile plan is the centerpiece of the planned buildup of the U.S. military power in Asia, projected to consume tens of millions of dollars in the defense budget over the next decade. A major shift in Pentagon spending priorities away from the Middle East, LA Times continues. Meanwhile, U.S. allies like Australia and the Philippines have already issued a stern no concerning the prospect of placing U.S. missiles on their territory, while South Korea is also considered too provocative a location concerning tensions with Pyongyang. All right, so right off the bat, they are saying nope. Okay, those are supposed to be our allies, Japan, Australia, and the others that I mentioned. All right, so the strategy, it seems, with the U.S. is that we want to do to China the exact same thing we did to Russia, which is put missiles close to the border or very close proximity, because if China ever launches an attack against the United States, we're going to be right there to counterattack, and that's the reason why Australia is saying no, and Japan is saying no, and the other ones that I mentioned say no. South Korea. But anyways, the point is that it also happens that all these nations that I mentioned, they all depend on China with goods and services. So if we were to go to war against China, like I've said before, if an EMP was to blow up over the United States, we would depend to get those, get the power running back again from products out of China. And just making, maybe a city available to have power again, it could take up to 18 months. But if we're in conflict with them, we can just forget about it. You know what I'm saying? So that's why you must prepare, because we don't know what's going to happen. Everything right now is going crazy. All right. I want to back up a little bit because I want to focus something on that can happen in the next about 17 days now. Okay. Bikers for Trump, they said that on July 4th, they will go all the way to Seattle to the now CHOP zone. All right. And they will take it back for the United States. If that conflict gets really, really big, all right, there's going to be pretty much it could be a potential big civil war, breaking out in Seattle. Now, if the United States has to get concentrated into putting that down, that's going to give the green light to all these other countries to make their move, because we're going to be too busy putting down our own internal conflicts, and we cannot be spread out all throughout the world the way that all these conflicts are starting to pop up. Okay, that would give the window to China and Russia to attack us. Remember that, as I've shared before, there's a prophecy from Dmitry Duduman, and he said that there would be some type of uprising in the country, that the United States would be too busy trying to put it down, and that would pretty much give the green light to Russia and China to attack us. It's possible that this could be it. All right, I encourage you to listen to that message by Dmitry Duduman, because it gives a lot of details of where will we get attacked from. He says that we will get attacked out of Mexico, Nicaragua, Colombia, and other places. And all those places are where China and Russia are right now. Okay, yeah, including Mexico. And also, out of NATO, we're having a lot of problems right now with Germany. They're talking about, get your troops out, get your missiles out. We don't want you here anymore. And more than likely, they're going to get out of NATO altogether. All right? And not just them, but Italy too. And another person that I listened to, Steve Quayle, he said that the other two countries that Dmitry Duduman had forgotten about, that that would attack the U.S., he said that he heard from God that it was going to be Germany and Italy. And I mean, it looks like it's playing that way right now. So if we're on the road to get nuked, okay, that's why you must get ready now. If it is a prophecy that God is tired of the United States from all our sin and all the things that we're doing wrong, or at least society at large is doing wrong, then you must prepare for what's coming. Because if it is ordained by God that we must, the cities must burn, that he said California is supposed to burn, Las Vegas is supposed to burn, New York's supposed to burn, and Florida is supposed to burn. If those cities do burn, okay, because we get attacked, then you must make preparations, because something of that magnitude is just gonna go insane. And let's not forget too, everyone is talking about defunding the police. Things have gotten so bad that police all throughout the nation are quitting. All right, the SWAT team in Florida just quit. And now with the conviction of the Atlanta police officer, they're giving him a murder sentence, which pretty much would take him to get the death penalty. It is rumored that people within the department, they're just walking out of the job. All right. So let me just remind you that the police officers are the first line of defense if we were ever to get attacked. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay. And if the police officers in the major cities, they just up and go, right? Because all these problems are major cities, then they're going to be very easily taken over by the enemy. All right. And from there, they're going to be able to establish beachheads. They're going to be able to put their weapon systems in our land, and it's gonna make it difficult for our fighters, for our soldiers to be able to attack the enemy that would be in our hemisphere. All right, so that's why you must prepare. So what do you need to do to prepare? I hope you made it this far, because now we're gonna get into the preparedness. But let me check if I didn't leave any articles out. I just left one out. All right. The title of it is China Makes Technological Breakthrough in Hypersonic Scramjet Ground Test. That's the title of it. All right, and that could be the reason why the United States wants to put the missile systems as close as they can to them. Oh, and before I move on to the prepping, I want to remind you though, all right, that the Pentagon said that in the next 10 years, China would be more stronger than us, that they could actually defeat us if we were to go toe-to-toe. Okay? 10 years from now. If they're making breakthroughs, there's a big possibility that with new information that comes out as China becomes more powerful and stronger, that timeline could be reduced significantly. How many years do we have? I have no idea. but we must be ready. All right, so what do you need to do right now to prepare? First off, if you live in any of those major cities that Dimitri Duduman said that we're gonna be attacked, all right, then you must get out of there. You have to get out. If you're in California, you need to get out. If you're in Las Vegas, Nevada, you need to get out. If you live anywhere near New York, you need to get out. And if you live in Florida, Central Florida, then you need to get out. Okay? Once you're able to get out, then you're going to have to stockpile your food and your water. All right? Why do you have to stock up food and water? Because if we go to war and, we actually get attacked, the supply chain is just going to stop. It's going to halt. No one is going to ship anything anywhere because everyone is going to be at home scared out of their mind. All right? Then, since the trucks won't be able to get out, there's going to be panic at stores. As we saw with coronavirus, everyone and their mother were out of the store trying to get supplies. In some places, they were polite and they were waiting in very long lines. They were getting their items and then they were checking out and going home. Some places, they got ugly. They got into fights. People broke bottles and they were stabbing each other with them. And then it got ugly. As the pandemic progressed, as we've seen, all right, when they were posting limits on items, then people were pretty much getting angry because they couldn't take as much as they needed. And now they were restricted to only a few items at a time. All right, so when you try to prepare in an environment like that, then you cannot move as quickly as you can or as you need, But when you have a chain disruption because there's explosions going on in another city and truck drivers don't go anywhere, whatever's at the store is what's going to be at the store for a very long time. How long? I don't know. Long time. That is why you have to have at least 3 to 6 months. That's just to start off, all right? That's just for you to get your foot in the door into prepping. If you're more experienced in the prepping, then you need to go ahead and try to get to 2 years plus. All right? And you're going to have land for you to be able to have, a garden, to have animals, have a pond for water, rain catchment system, water stocked up. Now, I'm reminding you, all of this is in 10-year plan, all right? How far you get is, depends when the first bomb comes in, comes out of the sky. But the point is that you have 10 years and you need to use every bit of time you have in order for you to prepare. Because I don't know about you, but for me, time is flying very, very quickly. All right, so once you have food and water established and you have it set up, you moved out of the city, you're in the country setting, live in the country, and you have at least 5 acres of land. You have your seats ready, you have the chicken coop ready, the rabbit cages ready, everything just for you to get some and put them in there, and then you're going to be able to feed them, all right? And they're going to give you food and the things you need for later on. Now, once all that is established, then you need to move into other things. Or you can actually do it in the meantime. You can start getting weapons, get ammunition, and get training on it. All right? Because once you have that training and something like there's a power vacuum that gets filled up by someone like in Chaz, all right, then you're going to be able to defend your property and defend your area with your friends and family, much better than someone who is not trained. That's the reason why you must be trained. All right. And then the next thing you need to move into is going to have to be communications. You must have communications because you need to hear what's going on, all throughout the country. But if there's no communications, let's say that they did an EMP and in the United States, there's no cell phone towers, no radio, nothing is working. If you were able to shield from an EMP a ham radio, then you're going to be able to hear news outside of the country, all right? Places like Mexico, like Australia, any other English-speaking country, they're going to get the news from what they're being told, and then you're going to be able to hear it and get intelligence out of it. That's why it's important for you to also have a ham radio, get licensed, and be ready with it. You're going to have alliances, at least 10 people. But the more you have, the better. But you also have to keep in mind that the more people you have, the more mouths you have to feed, right? And they have to be close friends and family, because if there's a altercation breaking out, it's possible that that you could lose your life, or that the group splits and everything just goes down the drain very easily. You're gonna have to have a plan to get out of there if your zone gets overrun by very many people, because they know you have the resources such as food and water to survive. All right, you're gonna have to have a backup plan, and you should be able to have the backup plan set up to where you can pretty much go back to what you had at first, where you had your food running, and you had stocked up items and all those things. All right, so you have 10 years, about 10 years to get ready for it. Maybe less, we don't know. As things continue to get worse and worse, as it seems, all throughout 2020, the line of, or the timeline, it's a little fuzzy right now, but it's going to become more clear and clear as the time goes by. So if you have not started, you need to go ahead and do it. All right, well, you still have this brief window of opportunity, because they're talking about a second wave of COVID-19, and if there's lockdowns again, and if there's restrictions on how much you can get again and all that, then we're going to go back to square one, to where I was talking about, and people are going to freak out again, and it might be more explosive. All right, so that was just a quick rundown, all right, of things you can do to prepare. You have 10 years to do it, and those skills are only going to get better and better throughout the years. All right, make sure you cover all your bases. Don't just focus on one thing, because sadly, a lot of preppers just focus on guns only, guns and ammo, guns and ammo. I met a guy, or a client of mine, that said that, or not said, but he showed me that he had 30 different type of guns, right? And he had different amounts of ammo for each and every one of them. And I told him, well, it's good that you have these very many guns, but once you run out of it, then what are you gonna do? Some of the guns that he owned, the ammo is hard to find. It wasn't like one very common type of ammo. And that's what I told him, that's what I advised. I said, you need to have the same type of gun that holds the same type of clip, that has the same type of bullet, because when it comes to a firefight, you're gonna have to be able to move all this ammo and share clips and all that stuff that goes into that type of defensive, all right, or offensive, that you're gonna have to be able to do. Because once you run out of that ammo and you cannot get that ammo, the gun becomes worthless. So that's something you have to think about. Don't just think on food and then you forget all about water and everything else. All right, be as balanced as you can. It has to be balanced, because you're gonna find out that you're gonna have a hole somewhere, and it might hurt you very deeply. All right, so again, I want to remind you about my book, Preppers Secrete Cache. Go to www.preppersecretcache.com, and you can order it from there. The book is free. We just need your information and help with shipping, or just click the link below. And also remember, we have the store up and running now. You can get the bug out bag that you see behind me, and that would help us a lot, by funding this operation and helping people in the community as well. All right, but my name is Jose Prado, and remember, always ready.
The Man-Made Survival Show.